Welcome to the Economy and Politics conversation. I'm Ottoabasi, Abasiekong. This conversation will be looking at Lagos and the transition to the 21st century circular economy, matters arising. I have a special guest today, Mrs. Folashade Ambrose-Medebem, Commissioner for Commerce, Cooperatives, Trade and Investment, Lagos State. Great to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Very well. Let's begin by asking you, recently, Lagos State launched its Economic Development Update, which is looking at diversifying its economy and continuing to position itself as a key hub, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa. What is the pivotal role that the ministry is playing, the Ministry of Commerce, Cooperative Trade and Investment, playing in driving this?
That's a very good question. Thank you very much. The ministry has a fourfold mandate. And ultimately, the whole aspect of what we do is to ensure that it's in accordance with the Executive Governor, Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu's development plan, Lagos State Development Plan, which is the Themes Plus. And for us as a ministry, our pathway and our roadmap is very clear. It's threefold. It's about driving economic prosperity and growth. It's about focusing on trade, and it's about strengthening the private sector through MSMEs, through startups, because when you think about it, startups in Africa, majority of them are in Nigeria, and I think about 5 or 7 of them actually in Lagos. So we deliberately include startups. And also industrialization. That's another big one that we're focusing on, very key. Making sure we also focus on nanos, that the grassroots, the solopreneurs, and women. And so that's really what we stand for. And so when you're talking about investments, it's important that there's clarity. And investments is not just about attracting investments, it's about retaining them. So we also have the duty of ensuring that the ease of doing business is enhanced and enhancing. And so when you think about that, it's really important that a lot of our efforts drive productivity, increase job creation, and ensure that inclusive growth is occurring. And so there are a number of sectors. For instance, we have a deal book, which we have put together, and it's very clear.
That's remarkable.
And it aligns the different sectors. And obviously, when you have a deal book, it's almost like a moving target, because once certain investments have been fulfilled, we look for other ones. And so, for instance, last year, we held our first investment roundtable, which we specifically ensured that we curated. I think you were there.
I was there, yeah.
We curated the actual...
We looked at various greenfield, brownfield investment opportunities.
And that was the first of its kind, because typically majority of the other ministries would have been doing their things on their own. But when you look at an investor coming in, for them, they will engender more confidence from seeing that we're speaking from one voice. Mr. Governor obviously came and he also ensured that and endorsed the fact that this is the beginning. And I'm happy to say that a number of expressions of interest and 1 or 2 actual investments came out of that. So we're actually looking forward to holding that this year as well in July.
So 1 or 2, like you want to share 1 or 2, at least.
I mentioned one yesterday, the Abu Dhabi port.
Okay, Abu Dhabi port, okay.
And that's a $200 million investment and a huge injection.
Yeah.
There are a number of other ones framed around sustainability, which will be at the Lekki Free Trade Zone, which is an agency that is under us. So we actually have the Lekki Free Zone. That's an agency under us. And that's what, I think about 16,500 hectare expanse of land. And there are a number of players there currently. But it's also a huge opportunity for investors to also come there. And we're going to make sure that we spotlight that during our roundtable that we're going to be having as well.
The interesting thing about Lagos is that what economists have propounded, like having asset optimization, having a deal book, is what you've already done. I mean, last year's summit, like you rightly said, we saw all ministries, all opportunities presented to investors in a single line, in a way that even down to rail, down to power, various opportunities, which is very important at this time. And we must admit that, yes, economic capital of Nigeria, key hub in Africa, there's a lot of potential. And we'll keep tracking these investments, like you've said, because it's very important. Lagos is very critical to Nigeria's economy. I mean, you have the base of 50% of the ports, which is quite interesting. But we just want to get further insight into how this will unlock opportunities for Lagos economy and Nigeria at large, because whatever happens in Lagos has a multiplier effect in Nigeria, Because Lagos is the powerhouse in terms of economic activities in Nigeria.
Okay, so again, I think it's important that we commend the visionary leadership of Mr. Governor, Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu. It's his vision really that we're sort of executing. And when you've outlined essentially our position, and in our quest for a greater Lagos, in our quest to play and ensure that we're standing at world-class standards, it's important that we have a very strong premier international financial center in Africa, and one that actually promotes economic growth and drives the essence of long-term prosperity. So the LIFC was established to achieve just that and attract global financial institutions to ensure that we're driving foreign investment and promoting financial innovation. That's really the premise of why it's been set up. The partnership of that is with another institution called Enterprise NGR. And that's obviously Mr. Governor is the chairman. The co-chair is Mr. Ike Emekwode. Yeah, exactly. And he's the co-chairman for that. And the whole essence of it really is for us to really ensure that we achieve and attract. And when you think about it, when we are operating on a world-class platform, more investments will come.
Which is what we need, yeah.
And so that's really the whole essence of it in the simple terms. My colleague, the Honorable Commissioner of Finance, is the arrowhead. I also sit on the committee as well. And so does my colleague, the Honorable Commissioner of Economic Budget and Planning, of which Mr. Governor approved us under the executive order. I think it was number 3 or so that we were all sworn in onto that committee. So we're working assiduously, and I like to say, watch this space.
Watch the space, because once we have an LIFC functional, it opens up more investments. When we look at the National Bureau of Statistics, every quarterly capital importation report, Lagos continues to lead in terms of investments, which is, of course, a clear fact, both foreign and domestic. But how is the ministry working to sustain this and also ensuring that they are around the ESG, environment, social governance, and sustainable green investments? Because you see that we're seeing a transition now from energy to renewable energy. Transition to renewable energy is now the big thing, big talk. So Nigeria must be strategic in that regard.
Okay, well, I think it's important that you understand that all the successes that Lagos State is enjoying right now is intentional, deliberate, and without a doubt, not accidental. What do I mean by that? Lagos State has a 30-year strategy called the Lagos State Development Plan 2052, which transcends administrations. And as a result of that, a lot of our policies are very clear, and when necessary, we can adapt them. So we're very agile as well. Continuous stakeholder engagement is another area that the ministry also orchestrates alongside, obviously, many of my other colleagues, case in point being BOS meets the business community. We hold that regularly. I mean, just last year, we held one, and we realized that a number of pain points, for want of a better word, that were being communicated to Mr. Governor were outside our jurisdiction. So we actually held an extraordinary BOS meets the business community, whereby we invited our federal government stakeholders to the fora to engage and address and resolve a number of the particular issues that they were talking about. You just mentioned green and sustainability. Of course, that's important. Investors now, it's not really about what they want to achieve, it's how they achieve it. And ESG provides that very robust framework. And for us, even if you look at the executive composition of Lagos State under Mr. Governor's leadership, he actually has the Ministry of Environment that focuses on that, and he's actually even established, I think it's circular economy and climate special assistant to the governor as well. So these are just some examples. A lot of what we do and what we endorse, we're advocating for that. For instance, significant investment has just been announced by Mr. Governor on the waterways. I think it was in excess of about 40 or 400 million euros, whereby they're going to be jetties, whereby there are going to be a lot more advocates
So more of green and then
of green transportation.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've launched the Green Line Railway, which again is encouraging and enabling reduction of CO2 emissions. I could go on and on, but these are just some examples of
that $400 million, that
decarbonizing
400 million euro.
400 million euros, which is the waterway.
But it's a very significant 400 million euro investment in green and waterways, and then of course anticipation that we'll get more ESG investments as you continue to strengthen, like you said, the framework to attract investments.
And another thing you asked, what we also do, ours is about advocacy as well. So a lot of the MSMEs that we work with are part of the capacity building, is to get them to understand the importance of, ESG and decarbonizing the environment in a lot of what they do. So that's something that we're really amplifying.
Yeah, and that leads me to the question you mentioned, the MSMEs. Now we call them NMSMEs because of the nano, micro, small, medium enterprises. Yes. Very critical. Lagos sits with about 50% of the NMSMEs in the country. That's why it's a commercial and economic hub. How is the state strengthening and enhancing infrastructure that enables the growth of these enterprises? You talked about the solo entrepreneurs who are the nanos, down to the MSMEs. What initiatives, what is happening to further encourage enterprise development and accelerate economic activities?
I think I'm really happy to say that a lot is happening across the rank and file of the executive composition of Lagos State. Case in point, the Ministry of Science, Innovation and Tech, for instance, have expanded the optical fiber networks. I think the last one, it was about 3,000 kilometer broadband access for businesses to be able to work. Yeah, digital infrastructure is huge. And I do know that they're planning a number of other, and then for us in the ministry as well, it's really about ensuring that we're enabling them to enable their businesses to grow. So we have industrial clusters, we have MSME hubs, we have enterprise zones, and really providing these workspaces, utilities, etc., enabling them to continue to do their business. Imota is one that I mentioned yesterday. Yes, that's up and coming. We also have Berigbe. The other thing that we're going to be doing innovatively and different is PPP partnerships.
Public-private partnerships.
Yes, where we have a lot of the land that we have. How can we work with them to try and ensure that we can further develop some of these industrial infrastructures and industrial hubs? Because that's also very important. The cooperative digitization project. I'm delighted to talk about LIFC, which is the Lagos State Access to Finance for SMEs through cooperative program that Mr. Governor launched just last week.
So how's that LIFC? How's it a game changer for supporting MSMEs at this time?
It's really about revolutionizing that, because a lot of when I engage with what I call BMOs, business member organizations, the likes of MAN, the likes of NASIMA,
Lagos Chamber of Commerce,
etc., etc. Two key pay points they always allude to. It's really about access to affordable finance and power. And obviously, energy-wise, it's been decentralized from the federal. The law, I believe, is about to be passed in the House of Assembly. And then recently, Mr. Governor launched the Lagos Energy Summit just a few weeks ago.
With Energy Summit,
my colleague, Arrow, spearheaded that. And so with this, what we've put together here is an innovative program whereby we will try to enhance data, because that's one thing we don't have a lot of, is how we can have data. We've looked at a lot of what is out there, and not everybody has access to land, can provide collateral when you look at also the interest rates that the banks are charging. So Mr. Governor has subsidized heavily by providing a matched fund, of which we've partnered with our strategic partner, the Bank of Industry, who has brought a significant amount of money, and we've collaborated. And so because ours is at 0%, we've been able to reduce the percentage rate. In addition, our other strategic partner, Sterling Bank, has also absorbed 50% of the risk. And it's non-collateralized, and it's at 9%, a single-digit loan, and it's with a 6-month moratorium. And in order for you to access it, you need to register with the cooperatives. So you see, that in itself helps. And in order for you to register with the cooperatives, there's a sort of a window you have to go through, which is we will review your business plan, we will review your numbers, we will ensure that you actually are a bona fide business and you actually have sort of framework to be able to run this established business, because at the end of the day, the other thing we want to do is try and de-risk it as much as we can, but also support. And where we need to support them, we will. And so it could take 6 months for them to come back and qualify. And the whole essence of this as well is that we want to now actually have a thriving ecosystem. Now they'll all be broken down by sectors. Agriculture, we've specifically called out women. You heard me when I mentioned. So we're actually going to give in a lot of emphasis to women.
Empowering women is good. Yeah.
And we also want to also make sure we focus on healthcare, technology, and manufacturing. And so
creative industries
and the creative industries as well. Yes, creative industries as well.
Lagos is the creative industry capital. So
and you'll be delighted, and I'm very happy and proud to say that this has caught the attention of the federal. And we were invited just this week to explain a little bit more about what I've just said. And we're actually invited to represent Mr. Governor at the African Union forthcoming MSME and Digital Innovation Summit, whereby we have won the bid to host it in Nigeria. And we've been invited to obviously participate because as a sub-sovereign, we've demonstrated that we're actually taking some actionable steps to improve affordable access to finance.
Yeah, very, very important. And the issues of access to energy is very critical for Lagos because you have huge population, almost over 20 million. You have enterprises, so that access to power is very, very important, which ties into sustainable green energy.
Power.
Yeah.
So solars, etc. Yes, and there are going to be some incentives that we're going to be developing at some point in collaboration with the Ministry of Energy.
Okay, that'll be very, very apt at this time.
To attract investors.
Yes. Attract trade facilitation, investment, and of course industrialization. Very key at this time. But let's look at ahead, the future, short term, long term. What should we expect from the ministry? Because the big thing discussed across Nigeria is investments. And I know that Lagos is pivotal to that. But what should we expect going forward?
Well, we have a number of priorities. I won't list them all here.
Yeah.
But immediate, when I say immediate, or should I say short term, is really for us to now launch our industrialization policy.
Very important.
We've already held the validation stakeholder forum. We've listened and ensured we've engaged because we actually drafted it. I drafted it already and shared that. And the difference with this policy is it's an actionable policy. So within the sectors, we've made sure that we've identified core areas. So for instance, Operation Quadrant Ignite, when you look at the Lekki Economic Trade Free Zone, you look at the Lagos Trade Free Zone, you look at Alaro City, you look at all the different players. It's really about how we can unify all of them and make sure that when an investor comes in, there's one single point of contact. Now, under Mr. Governor's leadership, we have, and that ministry is an agency that's under my ministry, we have the Lekki Worldwide Investment Limited Company. Now, with that, investors can now have one single point of contact. In addition, should they want to come in, we're trying to see if we can set up a catalytic fund. And the whole essence of that I mentioned during my media briefing yesterday is for us to also work with PE firms and venture capitalists to try and see how we can come up with a fund, because not everyone and not every MSME has the, as far as I say, bottomless capital to be able to purchase the land and also set up the business. So again, we're trying to see how we can support all of that, because remember, our remit is driving economic prosperity and growth. So those are just one or two things that I've just mentioned to you right away. So
a lot to look out for, especially the industrial policy and strengthening the whole ecosystem.
Yes.
So it's been a very interesting conversation. And as we wrap up, you were in the private sector. I knew you from the private sector. How has it been? I mean, transiting from private to public. People always say, it can be a very challenging experience. How's it been for you?
It's been very interesting. And I'm actually honored to have been appointed to serve. I'm from Lagos State. I'm a proud Lagosian. And for me to be able to come to my state and impart my experience, my network, my knowledge, and learn, because I'm learning rapidly, and to be able to actually make some sort of an impact that will benefit ultimately the business and Lagosians at large here. I'm really delighted to do that. And that's why a lot of what we're trying to drive here is to ensure that we leave it better than, or I leave it better than I met it.
I just believe that other states are learning, or you're also having that peer impact on other states, because a lot is said, yes, Lagos is great, but other states also be part of this whole experience of industrialization and transformation.
You're absolutely right, yes. And what I did, one of the first things that I did when I took on this job was, as you all, and I'm sure you can all relate, is my stakeholder mapping. And clearly, one of my first visits was to Abuja. And I did go and see all the relevant key stakeholders there. And I remember vividly them saying, oh, we thought Lagos is so up there. And I said, no, we're humble. And we understand that it's important that we work with our core stakeholders. And that's really proved very useful. And I feel that it's really, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of the methodology and applications from the private sector equally apply in the public sector. If anything, it applies all the more. And it's just very interesting that the other overlay is that there's the overlay of politics involved as well. Yeah. But having said that, the good thing is that the politics are the legislators. They're the ones that actually are the government. And so it's really a privilege, I say once again, to actually be interacting. Hence why I said I'm learning very, very rapidly. And I'm really honored that there's a lot that we plan to do. And I really would like to invite you back. Perhaps this time in a couple of months,
okay,
or Q1 next year.
Definitely.
And we'll be able to showcase a lot of what we have achieved.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Folashade Bada Ambrose-Medebem, Commissioner for Commerce, Cooperatives, Trade and Investment, Lagos State, for this interesting conversation on Lagos and the transition to 21st century circular economy matters arising. It's very important that as you continue to drive these investments, they are more of green. Of course, they should reflect the green economy, which is, of course, the transition to the future. And like you said, your industrial policy, whatever is happening, access to power, Lagos continues to work to create an enabler for industries and clusters. And most importantly, we drive an inclusive economy. So, I mean, Lagos challenges other states, 2052, 30-year plan and all that, but you also work with other states to support what they're doing to promote enterprises.
No, we're working with them. I actually set up a platform which actually has the entire number of my equivalents across different states. And so that was something, again, that I did, and I felt it was very important.
Yeah. And
it's enabled us also to ensure that overall, it's for us to ensure that Nigeria is rising.
A very interesting conversation, and of course shows that a lot more people can come from the private sector and transform public sector and policies. Thank you once again, Mrs. Folashade Bada Ambrose-Medebem, Commissioner for Commerce.
Thank you very much.
Cooperatives, Trade and Investment, Lagos State.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that will be all for this interesting conversation on economy and politics program, looking at Lagos State and the transition to 21st century circular economy matters arising. It's very clear that with sustainable policies and enabling environments, we can have business thrive and, of course, economy diversified through industrialization and attracting those right investments to make our economy grow. That'll be all for this edition. If you want to follow our conversations, look at our website displayed on the screen and also follow our social media platforms. To come your way again, thank you for being part of this program. My name is Ottoabasi. Abasiekong. Bye for now.